So, November 30th, 1975 in New Delhi, as Srila Prabhupada took his massage on the roof, Nrsimhadeva Prabhu came up to join him. After sitting for a while and reading from the 5th canto of Nrsimhadeva, he expressed to Srila Prabhupada his appreciation of the newly published volume. Prabhupada chanted a little with him, extolling the pleasures of sitting in the sunshine. He said that the Rajarshis of former ages all made their capitals in India on account of the pleasant sunny weather. Even during the winter, the days are warm and sunny, and in the summer, the evenings are very pleasant and mild. Nrsimhadeva asked Srila Prabhupada about the possibility of opening a center in Kabul. He explained that the residents there have shown interest in our society, and a good number of young Westerners pass through the area, many of whom are receptive to learning about spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada positively declared that it is his desire to see a center in every city of the world. He encouraged Nrsimhadeva to go ahead and try to establish something. Gopal Krishna joined us on the roof to finalize arrangements for tomorrow's journey to Kurukshetra. When he asked who would accompany His Divine Grace on the trip, Srila Prabhupada, with an upward tip of his head, immediately indicated he may go. Gopal Krishna registered mild surprise, since I am only a temporary fill-in. Are you sure, Srila Prabhupada? To which Srila Prabhupada responded, well, I have to have my massage. So by Prabhupada's grace and to my great satisfaction, my tenure as his servant had been extended, and I will get my first chance to travel with his divine grace. Prabhupada ki jai. Unfortunately, I blundered with the hot water for his bath again today. I remembered to place the immersion heater in the bucket of the heater of the water, but I foolishly forgot to switch it on. This time Srila Prabhupada became exasperated and reprimanded me because he had to wait until the water heated up. I had nothing to say. I hung my head feeling terrible. It was the second time in 3 days, and there was no excuse. Now I can understand that although Srila Prabhupada is very tolerant of the mistakes arising from inexperience, he expects us to learn from our errors. Simply carelessness does not sit well with him at all. He wants us to act with clear intelligence, seeing this as a symptom of Krishna consciousness. After taking his lunch prasadam, Prabhupada sat at ease in his sitting room for a short while. Then he walked through the servant's room to his bedroom to retire for his afternoon nap. Hansadutta, Harikesh and I were in the servant's room taking our lunch. As he came in, we offered our obeisances. I was sitting on the floor eating from a bowl with a spoon, and as I knelt back, I put my spoon down and rested my hand on my knee. Immediately Prabhupada looked at me and said, "Oh, you are eating and then?" He put his hand on different places of his body to illustrate a child contaminating his clothes with a dirty hand. My instinct was to say, "Well, Srila Prabhupada, my hand isn't dirty, I'm eating with a spoon." But I thought better of it and I checked myself. Prabhupada could obviously see that I realized that Prabhupada simply had a better understanding of what constitutes cleanliness. He laughed. As he walked past us into his bedroom, he shook his head and said, "You are all brought up lechas." Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today being the Sringa Chapter Prasad, a little departure from our normal reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, 18th Chapter, text number 9. Swastyasu vivasya kalapasidatam Jayantu bhutani shivam mitodiya Manascha patram vajata dadokshaje Avishtam no matirapya haituki Swastyastu vishvasya khala prasidatam Jayantu bhutani shivam mitodiya Manascha padram bhajata dadokshaje Avishyatam no matirapya haituki
Swasyastu vishvasya kala prasidatam
Swasyastu vishvasya khala prasidatam
Jayantu bhutani shivam mitodiya
Jayantu bhutani shivam mitodiya
Manascha badram bhajata dadokshaje
Bhadram Bhajatat Dokshaje Aveshitam Madhirakyaituki
Swasyastu Vishwasya Kalaprasidatam
Swasyastu Vishwasya Kalaprasidatam
Jayantu Bhutani Shivantu Todiya
Jayantu Bhutani Shitopitodiya
Anashtabhadram Bhajatat Dokshaje
Manascha Bhadram Bhajatat Dokshaje Aveshitam Madhirakyaituki Vaishnavi. Swasyastu Vishwasya Kalaprasidatam Jayantu Bhutani Shivam Vitodiya Manascha Bhadram Bhajatam Dokshaje Avishtam Madhirakyaituki Swasti auspiciousness Astu let there be Vishwasya of the entire universe Kala the envious almost everyone Prasidatam let them be pacified Jayantu let them consider Bhutani all the living entities Shivam auspiciousness Mitta mutual Dhiya by their intelligence Mana the mind Cha and Bhadram calmness Bhajatat let it experience Adhokshaje in the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is beyond the perception of mind, intelligence, and senses. Aveshyatam let it be absorbed. Na our Mati intelligence. Api indeed. Ahaituki without any motive. Translation and purport by His Divine Srila Prabhupada. Just a little one-line introduction. These are prayers. This chapter of Bhagavatam. The residents of Jambudvip offer prayers. So these are special prayers offered by Prasad Maharaj from the heavenly planets. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga. For by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thoughts of Him. So, of course, here Srila Prabhupada puts Krishna because we're devotees of Krishna, but actually Prasad Maharaj is offering this prayer to Lord Nrsimhadeva. So, we can see Krishna in the form of his expansion as Lord Nrsimhadeva. Purport. The following verse describes a Vaishnava. Just like a desire tree, a Vaishnava can fulfill all the desires of anyone who takes shelter of his lotus feet. Prasad Maharaj is a typical Vaishnava. He prays not for himself, but for all living beings, the gentle, the envious, and the mischievous. He always thought of the welfare of the mischievous persons like his father, Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj did not ask anything for himself. Rather, he prayed for the Lord to excuse his demoniac father. This is the attitude of a Vaishnava, who always thinks of the welfare of the entire universe. Just a comment on this first paragraph. Of course, Srila Prabhupada here refers to after the prayer, after Prahlad Maharaj offered his prayers to Lord Nrsimhadeva, the Lord insisted that he take some benediction. And immediately Prahlad Maharaj objected, transcendentally objected. He said, "My dear Lord, please don't think that I am a banik, I am a businessman." Teaching us that you don't make business with the Lord. You don't try to have some special compensation for what we do for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it should be done, as we read this morning, just reflecting on His kindness upon us, giving us so many wonderful things, so many wonderful gifts, and especially coming in the form of His holy name. So, this should be our petition to the Lord, that please allow me to serve you. This is the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur who said, everyone who addresses the Supreme Lord must ask for something, because the Lord is the source of everything. And the living entity is incapable of creating anything. The living entity can only ask the Lord to be engaged in His service. Even to serve Krishna, we must be empowered. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tarapravartana. Otherwise, there's no question of serving Krishna properly. So then he said, well, let me please then give some benefit to my father. Now, Srila Prabhupada comments that this was the only time that Prahlad Maharaj ever called, the first time he called him his father. Before that, before Hiranyakashipu was killed, because after he was killed, his demoniac spirit had been relieved. And then Prahlad Maharaj could consider him his father. Otherwise, because he was blessed by Hiranyakashipu, he accepted him as father. Otherwise, before that, even when Hiranyakashipu affectionately put Prahlad Maharaj on his lap, then he said, Tat sadhu manye suravadi devina. Oh, my dear father, best of the demons. That's how he referred to his father. You're a first-class demon. But after he was killed, then he said, my dear father. Srila Prabhupada emphasized this point, that his fatherly affection, there has to be some loving sentiment there. And although someone may show some bodily affection, Prahlad Maharaj was not interested in bodily affection. Prahlad Maharaj was interested in the reality of relationships. Just like the reality of relationships, when after killing Hiranyakashipu, Nrsimhadeva, he was very, very agitated. He was still feeling great anger. Now one may think, well, why would the Lord, yesterday I was even speaking about how anger must be immediately abated if one is using it in the service of the Lord. But Nrsimhadeva became so angry because not only did he kill Hiranyakashipu, if we remember well from the story, he killed hundreds of thousands of demons. Only the last group of demons realized that this is definitely not a winning situation, and they ran away. But all the other demons, the Lord manifested 1,000 arms and started killing them. So that required a huge amount of anger. And the Lord showed that anger, continued to display the anger, because he was expressing his sentiment. He was showing that if any demon tries to attack my devotee, this is what you will find. That no demon can pacify me. And not only that, no demigod can pacify him. So, Lord Nrsimhadeva, even when the demigods offered prayers, he wasn't pacified. And then the demigods all referred to Lakshmi Devi. You're his wife, do something. And she said, no, I can't do it. I've never seen, this form of my Lord is unprecedented. I've never seen him like this before. And then they all turned to Prasad Maharaj. This is your situation. You're the one that brought this about. You go pacify. And then Prasad Maharaj came and sat on his lap. The Lord Nrsimhadeva put his hand on his head. First he stood before him and offered prayers. And then afterwards he sat on his lap. And this very affectionate exchange took place. And at that point, he actually, this is explained by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, was brought to our attention by Gaur Govinda Maharaj, that after that, Lord Nrsimhadeva began to consider, this is so nice. Just see how Prasad is sitting so comfortably in my lap and feeling affection. I'm feeling affection for him and he's feeling affection for me. But now I'm feeling an affection like a father. So, because I'm feeling the affection of a father, he's feeling even greater affection, feeling my loving center as a son. But who is my father? My father is a pillar. So how can you have a relationship with a pillar? So the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did embrace a pillar. He embraced the Garuda Stamba, and he also, when he came back from Gaya, he was speaking to his devotees, revealing his dilemma, which was that he had Krishna and Krishna left him, and then he embraced the pillar and fell unconscious. The pillar, he was just thinking so much of Krishna, he wanted to embrace him, and the only thing that was available was a pillar. But generally you can't have too much rasa with a pillar. So, therefore Nrsimhadeva was thinking, the next time, from here on, whenever I come, I will come. I want to have a father and then he came as Vamanadev. He had a father and a mother, but there was no real rasa. And then finally he came as Lord Ramachandra, and then there was some rasa with his father and his mother. So deeper relationship. So the Lord demonstrates the evolution of rasa even through his dasavatars. So anyway, that's another point. So the point here is that Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't want anything, and then finally the Lord kept insisting, and he said, please give me your devotional service. This is what a pure Vaishnava wants from the Lord. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, because you have to require something from the Lord, so ask for pure devotional service. Srila Prabhupada begins his nectar devotion with this point, that Kapila Dev said a devotee is not even interested in liberation, but he begs for pure devotional service. Because by pure devotional service, not for his benefit, but he's thinking, if I can practice pure devotional service, then I can please the Lord in the best way. If I'm not a pure devotee, then my service to the Lord may be uncomfortable, just like we just read about Hari Shorty. If you don't have pure absorption in your service, then you forget to turn on the heater, you forget to do this, and this is inconvenience to the Lord. Sometimes we think that our idiosyncrasies or our peculiar behavior is something very nice. But if that peculiar behavior brought about by our conditioning inconveniences the Lord or his devotees, then it is a very unfortunate situation. Therefore we see in this verse that it says, let everyone practice devotional service, because by practicing devotional service they will think of each other's welfare. Otherwise the product of devotional service is that one should automatically be thinking of the welfare of others, not thinking about how bad everyone is, but thinking how wonderful everyone is. So therefore, if we're performing service and we have all kinds of negative attitudes, it means that our service is not very good quality. It's not that I just do something for Krishna in any consciousness and it's first class. If the consciousness is not proper, and here Prahlad Maharaj emphasizes the product of proper consciousness means that we love all the devotees. We don't have negative relationships. Otherwise, that indicates that our devotional service is not of a very good quality. It means we're doing it mechanically, or we're doing it for some personal benefit. So here, this verse, this prayer, is the revelation. Because when we think of Lord Nrsimhadeva, automatically we think of Prahlad Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada, when he gave one lecture on the Shinga Chaturdasi, he gave the lecture and then he said, I would like to recite many verses from Prahlad Maharaj, but there's no time. It was a little late in the evening, and the devotees were like waiting for Prasad. One time, Srila Prabhupada on Janmashtami, he was in New Vrindavan, and so he started reading Krishna book at about 10 o'clock in the evening. And he read chapter 1, which is, pretty long. The introduction he read, and then chapter, and then that was long. Then he finished, and the devotees were like, thinking, okay. And then he read the first chapter. It was midnight, and they were all looking at their, watch, it's midnight, this is it. And then Prabhupada said chapter 2. And then he kept reading. He read chapter 2, and it was like 12:30, 12:20. And, you can see the sannyas dandas going like this, nodding out. Dandas swaying all over the place. Devotees like, and then Prabhupada said, chapter 3. And then he finished chapter 3, and he looked up at the devotees and he said, he just looked like he was going to say chapter 4, and everybody's like, Prabhupada, I think you must be hungry. Jai Prabhupada. Smile. So this is the transcendence of a pure devotee, absorbed in Krishna. So we'll continue with Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Dharma are meant for persons who are completely free from envy. Paramanimatsarhani. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays in this verse, Kala Prasidatam. May all the envious persons be pacified. Of course, Srila Prabhupada puts in his word for word, almost everyone. Not like we're talking about a small group of people. We're talking about practically everyone in Kali Yuga, and any Yuga. The material world is full of envious persons, but if one frees himself from envy, he becomes liberal in his social dealings and can think of others' welfare. And nowadays there's a conception of being liberal in social dealing, meaning you become libertine and very permissive, and which usually leads to promiscuousness. Otherwise, all kinds of sinful activities. But liberal, Srila Prabhupada, one time, the devotee said, Srila Prabhupada's secretary said, Srila Prabhupada, speaking of some scholars, they considered that you are very conservative. Probably very traditional. And Prabhupada said, no, I'm very liberal. Lord Chaitanya is giving the holy name very freely. Prabhupada, this is his definition of liberal. So here, liberal in the social sense doesn't mean that we hang out with all kinds of people and acquire their bad habits. But it means that when your heart becomes purified, your social dealings means that you go to everyone and try to give them Krishna. Otherwise, Sankirtan will be. Anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness and engages himself completely in the service of the Lord, cleanses his mind of all envy. Manascha badram vajatam adokshaje. Prabhupada quoting this verse. Therefore we should pray to Lord Nrsimhadeva to sit in our hearts. We should pray, Bahir Nrsimho, Hridaye Nrsimha. Let Lord Nrsimhadeva sit in the core of my heart, killing all my bad propensities. Let my mind become clean, so that I may peacefully worship the Lord and bring peace to the entire world. So Srila Prabhupada here is referring to the previous verse. I'll just read that part of it. Om Namo Bhagavate Nrsimhaya Namate Tejase Apirabhibhava Vajat Naka Vajat Namistra Karmashayam. Karmashayam. So Srila Prabhupada translates that. Karma Ashayam. Demoniac desires to be happy by material activity. Randhaya, Randhaya. Please thank Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada comments that the most dangerous enemy is the material desires within the heart. And therefore we should pray to Lord Nrsimhadeva, please extinguish them, vanquish them immediately, these demons sitting in my heart. They are very, very dangerous. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a very fine purport in this regard. Oh, it's right here, just what I'm referring to. Whenever one offers a prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one always requests some benedictions from Him. Even pure, niskam devotees pray for some benediction, as instructed by the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastikam. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhamudo kripaya tavapada pakaja stita dhuli sarvisham vichintaya. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or another I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your Lotus feet. In another prayer, Lord Chaitanya says, Mama Janmani Jamanishware Bhavatad Bhakti. Life after life, let me have unalloyed love and devotion at your Lordship's Lotus feet. When Prasad Maharaj chants Om Namo Bhagavate Nrsimhaya, he prays for a benediction from the Lord, because he is also an exalted Vaishnava. He wants nothing for his personal sense gratification. The first thing expressed in his prayer is Swastyastu Vishvasya. Let there be good fortune throughout the entire universe. Prasad Maharaj thus requested the Lord to be merciful to everyone, including his father, a most envious person. According to Chanakya Pandit, there are two kinds of envious living beings. One is a snake, and the other is a man like Hiranyakashipu, who is by nature envious of everyone, even of his father or son. Hiranyakashipu was envious of his little son, Prasad, but Prasad asked a benediction for the benefit of his father. Hiranyakashipu was very envious of devotees, but Prasad wished that his father and other demons like him would give up their envious nature by the grace of the Lord and stop harassing the devotees. Kala pasidatam. The difficulty is that kala, envious living entity, is rarely pacified. One kind of kala, the snake, can be pacified simply by mantras or by the action of a particular herb. Mandao shadi vasa sarva kalakain and nivartete. An envious person, however, cannot be pacified by any means. Therefore, Prasad Maharaj prays that all envious persons may undergo a change of heart and think of the welfare of others. If the Krishna consciousness movement spreads all over the world, and if by the grace of Krishna everyone accepts it, the thinking of envious people will change. Everyone will think of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prasad Maharaj prays, Shiva Mito Diya. In all material activities, everyone is envious of others. But in Krishna consciousness, no one is envious of anyone else. Everyone else thinks of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that everyone's mind become gentle by being fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. Bhajata Dadukshaje. As indicated elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai Manakrishna Pararavindayo. And as advised by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 1865, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakta. One should constantly think of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then one's mind will certainly be cleansed. Chetvadarpana Mahajana. Materialists always think of sense gratification. But Prahlad Maharaj prays that the Lord's mercy will change their minds and they will stop thinking of sense gratification. They think, if they think of Krishna, always, everything will be all right. Some people argue that if everyone thought of Krishna in that way, the whole universe would be vacated because everyone would go back home, back to God. However, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is impossible because the living entities are innumerable. If one set of living entities is actually delivered by this Krishna consciousness movement, another set will fill the entire universe. Of course, this is also the prayer of Vasudeva Datta. So let me take on the sins and the impious activities of all living entities. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, I can't do that. Because you are my dear devotee. And even if I did that, the universe will again fill up immediately with envious living entities. So I'm not going to put my devotee through this kind of suffering. So therefore, we should see even the Lord in his most ferocious form as Nrsimhadeva is so kind to his devotee. There's one prayer which I can't remember, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Maybe Rajashiku remembers it. Something Swakotana. Remember, you know that verse? Anyway, it's a verse I can't remember. A long time ago I memorized it. Can't Kalita. And it says that it's a prayer to Lord Nrsimhadeva. Just as the lion, the mouth of the lion to the animals in the forest is very fearful, but to the little cub, the mouth is the shelter. So in the same way, O my Lord Nrsimhadeva, your very fearsome form is very much very fearful. This form, this kubra form, is very fearful to the demons. But to your devotees it is very wonderful. So even if this particular form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very, very, causing very much fear, then, but even that form is so pleasing to the devotees. Any form of the Lord, any pastime of the Lord, any manifestation of the Lord is so wonderful and pleasing to his devotees. And anyone who acts Harabhavakta sphere, that even if someone is full of all kinds of good qualities according to material calculation, if they're not engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Nrsimhadeva, they're not interested in these activities. These activities are simply a waste of time. As Prahlad Maharaj said in one of his prayers, that the living entities, unfortunately they're so caught up in this material existence, that griham andrupa, that they are caught up in these family relationships and bodily relationships, which is just like a deep dark well which has no end. Therefore, vanam gato tadhari asayeta. Therefore, let them all go to the forest. And of course, Srila Prabhupada said that my spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, said the forest means the cities. In Kali Yuga, forest means the cities. Let the devotees go to the forest and preach Krishna consciousness. The jungle. This is the real jungle. Just like one time I was going to the Amazon. So we used to have a farm there. I was going there. My sister said, "Oh, it's very dangerous there." She lives in Washington, D.C. And I said, "Well, if you look at the statistics, there are more people killed in Washington, D.C. than in the Amazon. I think you're in the real jungle. I'm going to a peaceful jungle. You're going to a very dangerous concrete jungle. You live there. So I think I should be concerned about your welfare." So this is our conception, that we think that something that's made by man, something that is made by material consideration or material calculation, is very wonderful. But Srila Prabhupada has defined this in one lecture that he gave on this particular day. He said, the mentality of Hiranyakashipu is just this, that by material calculation, by material manipulation, we can become happy. And therefore Srila Prabhupada gave that as his famous definition, Hiranyakashipu, gold and soft bed, otherwise wealth and sex life. That these are the desires of the materialists, and even the materialistic scientists, with all their technology, this is what they want. They want to extend the lifespan. They think if I can unlock the secrets of the universe by material manipulation, then we can stop this old age, and then we can enjoy sex life, and sleeping and eating, and all kinds of material activities unlimitedly. So although it appears that they're very munificent, that they want the benefit of humanity, you can see that all of their materialistic technology ends up in warfare, manipulation, control, exploitation. And therefore Lord Nrsimhadeva, in his very fearsome form, of course symbolizes, when I say symbolize, it doesn't mean that the Lord's form is a symbol, but it symbolizes, that appearance of the Lord in that form symbolizes the Lord in the form of death. Srila Prabhupada spoke about this in relation to Nrsimhadeva, that if you don't meet the Lord in the form of devotional service, you will meet Him in this form of Nrsimhadeva, or in the form of Sudarshan Chakra. Otherwise He will come and end your material existence. This is the promise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada is making that point. Therefore, what do you want? Do you want to meet Nrsimhadeva like Prasad Maharaj? Or do you want to meet Nrsimhadeva in the form of Hiranyakashipu? So we can meet them in his Ugra or Anugra. Either in his fearful form or his peaceful form. Here Prahlad Maharaj is praying to the Lord and thinking of peace. He's thinking that Lord Nrsimhadeva is bringing peace. And this is the actual, although the Lord takes such a fierce, and even the demigods were bewildered, even Lakshmi Devi bewildered by this unprecedented form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that the devotee who is situated in pure devotional service, which also indicates that these Sakam devotees, meaning the demigods, of course Lakshmi Devi is not a Sakam devotee, but even she, by Yoga Maya, was not able to approach the Lord. But these Sakam devotees, or devotees who still have material desires, even they may have some fear of the Lord. As long as you have material desires in the heart, then we may feel some fear, oh, Krishna's going to chastise me. The Lord's going to chastise me. Because we know that if we're doing something, we have some material desire, some material conception, and we're maintaining it in the heart. We know, just like we read today, about the pure chanting of the holy name, that if the chanting is not offenseless, then you won't get the desired success. And if our heart is not completely pure, we won't feel 100% protected by Lord Nrsimhadeva. We'll feel protected because we understand this concept. At the same time, if we're doing something improper, we may think, how will Nrsimhadeva deal with it? If the Pandavas had to take a brief dip in hell, what did people mean? For one mistake, each one of them made one mistake of doubting the Lord in one circumstance. And therefore, they had to take a little quick dip, just like you take a quick dip on a cold morning in the shower. Of course, there aren't any cold mornings in Trinidad. You take a quick dip, and so in the same way, even the slightest material desire, Srila Prabhupada said, even if you have one drop of material desire, it will be very difficult to go back home, back to God. What to speak of gallons or unlimited quantities of material desires. So therefore, Prahlad Maharaj is praying here for our benefit and for everyone's benefit, that we can all go back home, back to God. So, just to conclude, that Lord Nrsimhadeva, the Lord comes, the Lord is attracted. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada wanted to read the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj because it's such a beautiful way to see the Lord. Even though the point is that the Lord may be in his mood of punishment, and he may be apparently punishing, chastising, or dealing with us in a way that is at least externally unpalatable. But still, we should be so grateful for his intervention in our lives, however it may come, and pray in this way. Let the enviousness, first of all, go out of my heart. And then I can think of the benefit of others. And of course, Srila Prabhupada immediately referred it to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I'll stop here. Any comments or questions?
Although materialists, religious or so-called religious or educated, could they get any aspect of the realization of the function of the soul? Because we get realization according to different levels by Srila Prabhupada's following.
The materialist?
Yes, they're educated and wealthy, whatever. But is there any little realization of the function of the soul in any one of them outside?
Everyone.
Yes.
Everyone is getting that realization, but they're getting the opportunity to realize it.
Yes, Maharaj.
Because the suffering of the material world is realization of the soul. But without the mercy of the Vaishnavas to explain what's happening, people, what do? They blame God. They blame God. Instead of having realization of the soul, they blame God. Why? There must not be a God, or if there is, he owes me something because I'm so wonderful to him and look what he's doing to me. What's up with it? So the realization is there. The mechanism of realization is there. But unless we have the mercy of a Vaishnava, generally speaking, we take it in the wrong way.
What determines when we would change our desire to be free from this, from material desire? Because we may be doing devotional service, but then we're still entertaining the thought for enjoying self-gratification, enjoying separate from Krishna. This may be going on in our life. We're doing devotional service along. So what determines that point when we will be convinced that that is not in my best welfare, and at least we'll desire to not, what determines that point will come in our life?
Well, we can say many things. One is constant hearing. Generally speaking, if one does not have that desire, they're not very interesting in hearing things like what we just read. Otherwise, if I want to continue my material, I do some service. Usually that means I do the minimum. I do a minimal amount of service, or I do a substantial amount of service, but I want to continue my material desires. So, generally there's not an attraction for hearing or serious chanting, as we read about this morning, very serious, offenseless chanting. So what determines it is, what brings you to that point of having that desire is doing what Srila Prabhupada said, hearing and chanting. If there's enough hearing and chanting in the association of Vaishnava, and of course a proper understanding, because we see many people, they hear and they chant, but because they hear what they want to hear within their own mind, then still their heart doesn't become purified. And another type of material satisfaction comes in, which is pride. Pride that I have a greater understanding than other Vaishnavas. So this is also material contamination. Also, it's a type of sense gratification. Although one may not see it as sense gratification, one may think that what's becoming manifest in my heart is an advanced understanding of Krishna. But if you don't, as Prasad Maharaj indicates here, think of the welfare of others and have a wonderful, loving relationship with all living entities, what to speak with the Vaishnavas, then that desire cannot be present. It cannot be fully present. So, how does that desire become manifest? It becomes manifest at the point, and this is a very beautiful verse which I always refer to, and I've mentioned it before here and other places. 11th canto, chapter 20, texts 27 and 28. If we really want to understand where does the transition begin from performing service but still being materially contaminated to the point where I really want to do something about it, then one should read those verses. 11, 20, 27, 28 in the purport. And then it explains, Krishna explains there to Uddhava in no uncertain terms what the mentality has to be to develop that determination to counteract these material desires within the heart, which basically is understanding that they are unnecessary and that they are an inconvenience, and even though they still may be there, every time they appear, I feel some regret. I feel some, why is this happening? Why am I doing this? This is foolish. And let me get rid of it. And when that seriousness comes, and we do something about it, then that's the transition point. But sometimes, if our conception of devotional service is minimal, then we think I'm okay. I'm doing service. Otherwise, we may be doing a lot of service externally. But if our mentality is not right, we think, hey, I'm doing great. I'm doing so much service. But there's a material desire of pride, of arrogance, of thinking myself better than others. And that can even be more dangerous than just desiring to enjoy this world. As Srila Prabhupada said, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur especially outlines, that subtle material desires are much more dangerous because they're more difficult to identify. If we have gross material desires, to want to grossly enjoy the senses, you can easily see that I'm in Maya. And if you don't see that, it means you're not reading at all, and you're not chanting at all. But the subtle ones, pratishta, and desire for honor, fame, recognition, thinking I'm an advanced devotee, these things are subtle, they're harder to identify. And usually when someone else identifies it, we think, we don't take it very well. I remember one time I was chanting in Vrindavan, Prabhupada's room, and some devotee was sitting next to me, and he said, I can't remember if I was a sannyasi at that time or not, but I was definitely puffed up, and that hasn't changed much. But in any case, he said, Prabhu or I can't remember, he said, sometimes you're missing something. I said, no, I'm chanting. No way. But then afterwards I started thinking, he was sitting right next to me. And so I just got a little tape recorder, and I just turned it on. Of course, immediately, in the beginning I was conscious, and I was, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But after a while I kept chanting, I left it on. And I listened to it. And yes, it was sometimes I was being a little careless. I could see I was thinking of something else, and the Maha Mantra wasn't being pronounced very clearly. And so then I went to the devotee and offered my dandava. I said, thank you very much. I'm sorry that my false ego got in the way and I couldn't take advantage of your mercy. And then from that time on, I've been trying to chant and hearing the mantra very carefully. So the point is that sometimes these subtleties are not so easy to detect. And we think, well, I'm doing very nicely, I'm chanting very nicely, I'm serving very nicely, I have a wonderful attitude. It's these others around me that are, that make it look like that I may have some defect. But no defect in me. This is, although that may sound very obvious, it's something that plagues practically all of us at some point in time. We have this pride that I've been around for this many years. I've been, what to speak when you get to 35, 40, as I mentioned the other day, some devotees next year, they'll be 50-year devotees. When you're that far along, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes this point in his Madhurya Kadambini, that it's very difficult to identify these very subtle but very dangerous things that caused even some devotees to deviate from Srila Prabhupada's service and think that, let me go find something better. Prabhupada said, yes, I give you my blessings to go enjoy the material world. Because they were thinking, Prabhupada, can you give us a blessing? We want to take instruction from someone else to get a higher realization. Yes, I give you my blessing. You can go enjoy the material world. Otherwise, if you doubt the spiritual master, you doubt Shastra, you doubt the process that the Guru is giving you, then it's not a very auspicious thing. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, even though we're both practicing Vidhi Bhakti very nicely, because it's still not the highest platform, and we're still not developing that full love, we still have a very long way to go.
If we're doing it very nicely, we won't think that way. Otherwise, Vaidhi Bhakti is not incomplete. It is simply leads to Vaikuntha. Otherwise, if you continue on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti and you develop pure devotional service, then you will be inclined to Vaikuntha or to worship Narayana. Just like one of my godbrothers, I just heard about him, that he actually joined the Sri Sampradaya. He was so attracted to Vaidhi Bhakti that he joined the Sri Sampradaya. So this can happen. It's not that everyone is going to go over Vrindavan, although that is the aspiration of the Gaudiya Vaishnava, followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to be connected with Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that in several lectures in Bhagavad Gita. And Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, he also mentions that for a follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the only option is Krishna. The only option is Goloka Vrindavan. So, Vaidhi Bhakti is not incomplete, but it is incomplete for a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, meaning that they want to achieve the platform of Raga Bhakti. Of course, Raga Bhakti, there is a certain degree of Raga Bhakti in the activities even of devotees who are in Vaikuntha consciousness. It's not that they have no raga, but their raga is dominated by rules and regulation. They have a tendency to always follow a system. But sometimes they're overcome in total ecstasy also. It's not that they're just doing some ritual. So, Vaidhi Bhakti is very pleasing for the devotee. It's very pleasing. But if we're worshipping Krishna and we're worshipping Lord Chaitanya and serving him nicely, then the desire will, and worshipping the deities of Radha and Krishna, and hearing about Radha and Krishna, then the desire for Raga Bhakti will become manifest. But the Vaidhi Bhakti doesn't go away. Rupa Goswami says very clearly that Raga Bhakti is an internal process. That the devotee continues with his Vaidhi process, unless you're like Gorkishore Das Babaji or something. You got your Uttamadikari, Bhajananandi, then you practice Raga Bhakti externally. But we see Srila Prabhupada, many of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers who were situated in Raga Bhakti, they were very strict. They were very, 6 Goswamis, they continued their discipline. It's not that Raga Bhakti means, hey, I just, free-for-all devotional service. It's not like that. Raga Bhakti may be fully manifest in the heart of someone, and we may only realize it to the degree that we see that they're very advanced and they're very attached to Krishna. But we don't know the degree of development of raga within their heart. They don't reveal that. They don't, start jumping around and dancing in front of everyone. I'm seeing, just like Srila Prabhupada warns us that we shouldn't think like that. Not that yesterday I was dancing with Krishna. Prabhupada makes that point. But rather, Hey Radhe Rajadevike Chalalite. Srila Prabhupada makes this point in elevation to Krishna consciousness. That the Goswamis were never thinking, yesterday I saw Krishna. They were never saying this. Today I was seeing Krishna playing his flute. No. They're saying, where is Krishna? Where is Radha? Where is Govardhan? This is the mood of the Goswami. Yes.
If the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is one of separation, then why do we have some melodies that appear to be happy? If it is one of separation.
Melodies of what?
Melodies that appear to be happy. There's happy melodies and so
Yeah,
forth.
of course.
But how could it be
Feeling
happy?
separation is not. If you study Chaitanya Charitamrita, the feelings of separation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes they produce jubilance and ecstasy, laughing, and sometimes they produce moroseness. It's not the separation, just you're just where's Krishna? No, sometimes you're dancing and chanting, just like the gopis. They were feeling ecstasy, the ecstasies of separation. They were talking among one another, and then they began to enact Krishna's pastimes in the forest of Vrindavan, and they were blissful. And then again they felt separation, and all they were feeling. So the different feelings become very intense. It's not just moroseness. It's not just like lamentation. Where is Krishna? Sometimes that feeling comes, and sometimes the feeling of laughing, joyous exuberance comes from separation.
Once I carried these pictures, and people take out pictures of one guy, I get the $1,000. I said, no, I have to go to Das to just bring it for you to see. That picture, he's an artist, and he said that he cannot paint like that, so he realized that he is not there. It's so your picture in the wood is so nice, so deep. The pictures.
Yes, pictures are very nice, very wonderful, reminding us of Krishna.
God. I couldn't sell it because it's from ISKCON, but I just bring it out as preaching. Oh my God.
Okay, last question, because we have to chat.
Next devotion, Atasri Krishna Namadi Nabhavad Graham Indriya, is that the Lord cannot be seen by blunt material senses. So what form did Hiranyakashipu see?
He saw the form of Nrsimhadeva.
But
He was allowed to see that. Sometimes a demon is allowed to see the form of the Lord. Sometimes, even though we have material senses, the Lord appears in the form of the deity. And the Lord appears in the form of the holy name. We might not see Him completely. Just like we see the deity, we may not see the deity in the same way as Lord Chaitanya saw. Just like Lord Chaitanya looked at Jagannath and he saw Krishna playing the flute. So we may not have that kind of vision. But we can see Lord Jagannath, but we may not see Him completely. Meaning that He doesn't fully manifest before our eyes because we have some material contamination. But when we speak, we have to remember who is Hiranyakashipu. He's Vijaya. So he's a devotee. So he was allowed to see the form of the Lord. And many demons who are killed by the Lord, they may not see exactly the Lord in the same way that we see Him, but they will see Him. But what that verse specifically refers to is that they cannot understand His, because it says, Ata Shri Krishna Nama Adi. They won't see the holy name in a fully proper way. They won't see Krishna in the proper way. But if Krishna's coming to kill them, they'll definitely see Him. But they won't see Him like we see Him. If we see Krishna coming toward us, if we were so fortunate, we would offer obeisances. If a demon sees Krishna coming, they pick up their sword and try to fight with Him and try to kill Him. So that's what it means by not seeing Krishna. When Krishna manifested in this world, millions of people saw Him, but they couldn't understand Him. That was Prabhupada's point about that verse. They couldn't understand who He was. They saw Krishna, they saw the form of Krishna, but they didn't see who Krishna was. Okay, so we'll stop there. I'll go to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Shri Prabhupada ki, Shri Nrsimha Chaturdasi ki jai, Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai. Antakoti Vaishnava.